You have your espresso machine. You've bought all the tools to prep your grounds to perfection and are now looking for that next step to take to improve your drink quality even further. Even if you don't find yourself in this exact scenario, upgrading the shower screen in your espresso machine could be a step in the right direction. Hi there, Bryan here with Whole Latte Love. Before I get into my research, have you upgraded the shower screens on your home machine? What has your experience been like? I'd love to hear all about it, so let me know down in the comments. In this video, I'm going to do some in-depth comparisons of stock shower screens to some aftermarket upgrades, including some new shower screens from Barista Improving Taste, or BIT. Saro Dalalio at BIT has been hard at work creating new and improved shower screens and holding plates for the Gaggia Classic, as well as Bezzera espresso machines that utilize the BZ style group head. I'll go over a list of machines that can install these upgrades later, but first I want to talk more about shower screens. I don't want to get too technical about the internal workings of an espresso machine. We have other videos for that. So I'm going to try and keep this relatively simple. In almost every espresso machine, all the water that is used to brew your espresso goes through the group head and comes out of either one or a few small holes at the bottom. At that point, it passes through the holding plate or dispersion disc and then through the shower screen and onto your bed of espresso. In other words, the shower screen and holding plate help to soften the flow of water onto the espresso as well as disperse the water more evenly through the puck for maximum extraction. If they weren't there, the water would essentially just bore a hole straight through the espresso puck and only extract the coffee it came in contact with on its way through, leaving large dry areas of the puck that weren't extracted at all. If you've ever heard the phrase channeling used when pulling espresso, that's what's happening, usually to a much lesser degree than the scenario I just mentioned. So the shower screen and holding plate are pretty important to the quality of espresso that your machine can make, and yet upgrading them is a rather simple task, one that costs less than $100 and only involves removing at most a few screws. Now that I've gone over the general purpose of a shower screen, I want to go ahead and detail some of the differences between the stock plates and screens and these featured aftermarket upgrades by BIT and IMS, starting with the Gaggia Classic. With the holding plates, both the current stock and BIT holding plates are made of stainless steel, with older model classics featuring aluminum holding plates. The key differences here are that the BIT holding plates feature 8 holes for the water to pass through, while the stock plate uses 4. The BIT plate for the Gaggia Classic also has a circular channel around the outside of the holes for the water to briefly pool up in before exiting onto the screen. The stock and IMS screens have a diameter of 54 millimeters, while the BIT screen is 51.5 millimeters. With this size difference, it's important to note that the stock and IMS screens are exclusively designed to work with the stock holding plate and cannot be used in tandem with the BIT holding plate. And that brings us to the screens. The BIT screens feature 512 precision-etched micro-perforations laid out in a pattern with the most holes around the outer diameter decreasing as you go closer to the center. Similar can be said about the IMS screen, although it features more than 3 times as many holes at 1,881 and are arranged in a more uniform pattern. Both the BIT and IMS screens are manufactured by IMS, but only the IMS screen features their hydro-repellent nanotech coating, which purportedly further improves water distribution and makes them easier to clean. The stock Gaggia shower screen contains 468 punched holes arranged equidistant from each other in a grid pattern. With all that technical data aside, most importantly, how do they perform and how much do they really affect the taste? For this, I ran a multitude of tests and drank a lot of espresso. I used our Whole Latte Love single origin Colombia Tolima beans, which is a washed medium light roast that in cupping produced flavor notes of orange, apple, grape, caramel, and toasted almond. But cupping coffees is a lot easier than pulling multiple uniform shots of espresso for tasting. In testing like this, it's impossible to remove all the variables, but I wanted to try and have the espresso preparation as repeatable as possible between the shots. For grinding, I opted to single dose each shot using a Chiato E5 SD grinder and an Akaya dosing cup. I decided against WDT due to its variability and instead used a Bravo distributor and a compact cube automated tamper to compress the grounds. Since the water passed through each setup slightly differently, I dialed in my grind size for each brew to achieve an approximate 36 grams of brewed espresso using an 18-gram dose with a goal of 20 to 22% extraction yield as measured by refractometer. In my research, I calculated the extraction yield using the typical equation of total dissolved solids, or TDS, multiplied by the weight of liquid espresso brewed divided by the weighed dose. And then I put my 10 years of specialty coffee tasting to the test. Starting with the stock setup on the Gaggia Classic Pro, my shot brewed 35.7 grams of espresso in 26 seconds with an extraction yield of 20.84%. I made this chart with common coffee tasting categories to grade each shot and to help visualize their differences. The shot from the stock screen had the thickest body with a syrupy, sweet, nutty flavor and a lasting aftertaste. The shot I pulled using the IMS screen produced 37.2 grams of espresso in 26 seconds with an extraction yield of 20.77%. This shot had a round, juicy mouthfeel and notes of fresh orange and pear. Finally, my shot produced by the BIT holding plate and screen saw 37 grams of espresso out in 27 seconds with an extraction yield of 20.99%. The BIT shot featured more of a white grape Pinot Grigio flavor up front, fading into a green apple with a soft almond finish. Here's a side-by-side of the 3 shots from each setup. As you can see, the IMS and BIT screens grouped up faster than the stock screen, which showed a minimal amount of channeling. And I didn't find any noticeable difference when cleaning them off. So what does all this mean? In my attempts to keep all the variables as constant as possible between the shots, it's safe to say that changing the screens did affect the flavor of the espresso. Now, I can't say that one shot necessarily tasted better than the others. That's up to each individual taster. But I will say that the shots pulled with the stock setup provided the least complex flavors in the cup. The differences between the IMS and BIT setups were a lot more subtle, with the BIT providing ever slightly more brightness. In the end, I found myself preferring the shots pulled using the BIT setup. The Tolima is already a pretty bright coffee on its own, so highlighting that brightness provided the best experience. For the Gaggia Classic user looking for a simple, non-invasive upgrade to their machine, upgrading the shower screen is something definitely worth looking into. Moving on to the differences in the stock plates and screens to similar available upgrades for Bezzera machines with Beezy style group heads. If not sure what I mean by that, here is a list of machines offered by Whole Latte Love that these screens would work on. Starting with the holding plates, the first difference is fairly obvious. The stock holding plate for the Bezzera machines is made of brass, while the BIT holding plates are made of stainless steel. Stainless steel has a much lower thermal conductivity than brass, which should help keep temperatures a little more stable in the group. The BIT holding plate increases the holes over the stock holding plate from 6 to 8 for BZ group machines. The BIT shower screen is exactly the same screen as the one for the Gaggia Classic, and the hole pattern on the IMS screen is also identical to its Gaggia counterpart, and once again features a nanotech coating. One of the key ways the IMS screen improves on the stock screen is the smooth, seamless lip around the outside edge. The stock BZ group Bezzera shower screen is composed of multiple pieces, a disc containing 102 holes and a piece of metal mesh bonded to it. Once again, the IMS and stock screens cannot be used with the BIT holding plate due to their differences in shape. In testing the Bezzera shower screens, I installed them on a BZ13DE and used the same coffee, grinder, and grounds preparation as the Gaggia Classic testing. Considering the similarities in their Gaggia counterparts and the amount of detailed tasting I did, I wanted to see if I could guess which one was which in a blind taste test. For this, I had my good friend Mark dial in and pull shots from each setup that fell within that same 20 to 22% range of extraction yield. All right, so let's see here. Starting with this one. Definitely nutty. Interesting. A lot less bright than the first one. Okay, so that one's bright, but how does it compare to the first one? Let's see, real quick. All right, so my guess is going to be the clear is the BIT. I'm getting that nice brightness. The white grape is right there. That's really nice. Now this one I'm going to guess is the stock screen. It's a little muddier, definitely not really punchy. So that's what I'm gonna guess. And then this one, the smoke, I'm gonna guess is the IMS. It's got a nice brightness. The orange is very present right in the front. I like that a lot. So that's gonna be my guess. So let's see. I was wrong. So this is the stock screen, which is very surprising. This is the IMS and this is the BIT. So I was right about this, but these two I was off on, which is very interesting. Well, today I learned. So in the end, you can definitely get by without upgrading the shower screens on your espresso machine, but it can provide a noticeable improvement to the brightness and flavor clarity of your coffee. And it's a simple and relatively inexpensive upgrade in comparison to most other machine modifications. As always, I've put links to all the products listed in this video down in the description below. If you have any questions, use the comments and I'll get back with you. And if you want to stay on top of the latest and greatest in coffee, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Once again, I'm Bryan. Thanks for watching and check back soon for more of the best on everything coffee. Brought to you by Whole Latte Love.